everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video we're going to be doing something. I don't know if a lot of you will like it, but someone asked me to do this and I was like, that sounds like a good idea, so we're doing it. So in today's video we're going to do like an analysis slash commentary on Miraculous Ladybug season 4 as like a whole thing together. So if you've been here for most of the season, you'll know I've done a like analysis slash commentary on every single episode, plus the Shanghai special as well. I think I started doing them in the New York special, so I've done a whole season of them plus 2 special commentaries. So in this video we're gonna look at the whole season, and I've seen the whole season twice all the way through chronologically, and I've seen each episode at least 6 times, so I've seen it quite a lot. So we're gonna basically look at how well I think, obviously my opinion, I think the show did the whole plot development from start to finish, relationship development from start to finish, and character development from start to finish. And when I finished writing this, I think the season was pretty good overall. I do have some criticisms, but I think this video is going to be fairly positive judging from what I've written. And this is like a full-on essay. It's 11 pages. So get a drink. This isn't going to be a short video. When I sit down to my other commentaries, I'm like, I don't know how long it's going to be. This one is going to be long. My voice is going to be dead by the end of it. So kick back, relax, get a drink, get a snack. You're going to be here for a while. So like I said, I'm going to be evaluating the whole season. However, I'm not going to talk about every single episode because we will be here forever if I talk about every single thing from every single episode. No one wants to do that. I will definitely mention specific episodes. There's a lot of episodes I am going to mention. I probably by the end of it will have mentioned the majority of the episodes at least once, and I will also be mentioning some specific moments from some episodes, but I cannot physically talk about everything, so I'm going to do the more general things in the season that I think we all would have picked up on. The only thing in this video I'm not going to talk that much about from this season is, first of all, I'm not going to talk about any outfits. I'll do outfit videos separately. I'm not going to talk about any really season 5 predictions. I'll probably mention them slightly, but that's not what this video is going to be. And I'm also not going to talk a lot about Zoe, just because by the time I finished writing the Zoe section I was like, you know what, I feel like Zoe deserves a video on her own, so I'm just going to kind of skip over Zoe, but I will come back to it in a later video. So if you only care what I thought about the specific episodes, this video is not going to be for you. I will leave a playlist link down below with all of the season 4 commentaries on, so if you really want to know what I thought of Queen Banana or whatever, just go and watch the Queen Banana video. If you want like a more general view of what I thought of the season, then I will link down below my ranking video. And if you want something a bit different and you want to know what like the fandom as a whole thoughts, then I will link down below my unofficial award show that I filmed with my friend Oscar. And if still at the end of the day none of those videos are for you, what is wrong with you? So obviously everything in this video is going to be my opinion. If you disagree, that's fine, that's Gucci. Besties don't always agree, but besties always respect each other's opinions and listen to each other. It's okay. And obviously I'm going to be judging this from a writer's perspective. I don't care about anything else, the animation, the directing, the voice acting, music, whatever. It has no bearing on my enjoyment of the show, although chilling animation. Okay, that was bad. But for the most part, those things don't really impact on how much I enjoy the show. The thing that makes me enjoy the show or not enjoy the show is the quality of writing in the episodes. So I'm going to be judging this from a writer's perspective, and as some of you may know, because I don't feel the need to mention it all the time, but as some of you may know, I am a professional idiot, but also a professional writer. I can't take myself seriously. Like, I can't even spell. If you're in my Discord server, you know how bad I am at spelling. But anyway, my qualifications for how qualified I am to judge this as a professional writer: I have a degree in creative writing with a focus on prose and screenwriting. I have a master's in creative writing with a focus on prose, and a master's in script writing that's specialised in writing for television, film and video games. And I'm currently finishing off a PhD in creative writing that's about mental health, science fiction and young adult audiences, and I currently have a published book. So yeah, those are my qualifications. However, I don't think you need to be a professional whatever to be able to judge the quality of something. I always think it's a really good idea to have like a non-professional layperson's outside perspective when you want feedback on something. A lot of the time, because you're pressed too close to the glass, you often can't see the problems with something. So just because you may not be professional, and I'm assuming most of you won't be because most people aren't, I don't think that makes your opinion any less valid. I mean, Thomas Astruc would disagree with me, but I'm not Thomas Astruc. Thankfully. My god. However, I do hope we'd all want what was best for the show. It's my favourite show. I watch it every day. What has my life become? But anyway, let's start with talking about the overarching plot from this season. So the plot of season 4, the general overarching plot from Truth to Strike Back, overall, I thought it was absolutely fabulous. Now obviously some individual episodes I wasn't too fond of the plot in them, for example Ephemeral, but this is about the overarching, the whole season as a whole. In my other commentary videos we just look at each episode on its own. This video we're looking at the season together as a collective piece of work, all 26 episodes. We want to try and take them all in at once, which is a bit difficult. I can't go into a lot of detail on all of these points because of that, but I think overall the entire plot from start to finish was really, really good. And the way the plot progressed this season as well, she gets an A+, an A star, whatever you want to go as the highest. She was so good. Had really good overarching themes that were established immediately, even without what happens in Truth, Lies and Gang of Secrets. Just the names of those episodes in themselves already set the tone, the themes for this season. It's about lies and secrets, not telling people what's going on but just expecting them to be okay and not even realising things are going wrong. And even within those like first 6 episodes there were so many themes in that. For example, in Truth, Cat Noir was like, I don't mind you being guardian as long as nothing changes. He said that again in Furious Fu. And in Lies, right at the end, they were like, we can trust each other completely. And then halfway through the season, Cat Noir was like, actually no, Ladybug, I can't really trust you anymore at all, to be honest. And when this was all happening, like as we were watching the season, because I'm a writer, I'm usually pretty good at predicting, not specific things, I can't usually predict really specific stuff, but because I know how things go, I was like, Cat Noir's gonna be left out, they're leaving him out of this. And I made a video about it after Optogami aired. 90% of the comments under that video were telling me I was wrong, that I was just overreacting because he's getting less screen time. I feel so vindicated now that I know I was right. It was so fun, like I could tell where it was going as the season was going on. As soon as we got to Optogami I was like, I know we're missing a lot of episodes. Like by that point we hadn't seen Psychomedian, we hadn't seen Daddy Agrest, what else had we not seen? We hadn't seen, I don't think we've seen Mega Leech or Crocodile yet, stuff like that. But I was like, yeah, he's being left out, this is going to become a thing because of the themes established early in the season. However, I think it was paced really, really well, even though I worked out immediately. Like I can usually work out what's going to happen in the season pretty quick. As with most films and TV shows, I usually end up ruining things for myself. Like the film Reservoir Dogs is not fun when you work out who betrayed the gang within the first 5 minutes. The whole point of the film is trying to work out who betrayed the gang, and you don't find out till the end. So the film really loses all enjoyment when you work it out within 5 minutes. It's like, oh, okay, it was you. Then the rest of the film is boring once you know who it is. So, however, this season of Miraculous was paced really, really well. The first half of the season was a bit more chill, I think, if you compare them from Truth to Optogami compared to Sentibubbler to Strike Back. Sentibubbler to Strike Back was a bit more intense, whereas the first 13 episodes, whilst we did have some that were more impactful, for example the first 3 they had a lot going on, Daddy Agrest has some stuff going on, Optogami as well. For the most part, in comparison to the second half, the first half of the season was a lot more chill and explored other things. For example, we got instruction of Zoe and Suhan, Alia knowing, Felix and Gabriel, some new holders. So we got Zoe, Rose, Julika and Milen. But then the second half, traumatizing. So we had that more chill first half of the season, and it really ramped up the pace with Sentibubbler, which I really liked. Like Optogami was like getting up there. I kind of wanted Optogami personally to have a bit more impact, but it didn't, so it is what it is. But Sentibubbler was Senti Bubbler was up there plot-wise. I love the continuing plot between them, so good. And then the plot all the way up until episode 18 with Cat Noir, who's being progressively left more and more out, was amazing. However, this is where I take issue with the plot of the season. And the plot overall, as in what happens, is good, but the way it was done after Wishmaker, I dislike. So in episodes 19 to 21, Lady Noir relationship, fine. Simple Man, things are great. Chilling, things are great. Dearest family, things are really good. And even in Ephemeral, even though most of it didn't happen anymore, things were obviously amazing. The only thing that really jeopardizes their relationship in those 4 episodes is in Ephemeral, Ladybug rings Cat Noir 14 times, he doesn't pick up until several hours later by the sounds of it. And then just out of nowhere an episode later, he gives up being Cat Noir. It just, like I said, it comes out of nowhere and it really, really doesn't fit. Now don't get me wrong, we needed an episode like Kuroneko for this season. I understand that. And for Adrian to have zero reaction to the way he's been treated would have been weird. I understand, we needed a Kuroneko episode. I get it. But it really should have been episode 19. I've said this before, I said it when Kuroneko aired. I think I said it in my ranking video, and I'm saying it again now. Kuroneko should have been episode 19, not episode 23. It happens far too late, and whilst I kind of like Marinette's like family episodes all happening together, so they have Roland akumatized, Sabine akumatized, and then all 4 of her relatives, all the 4 relatives that we see in the show. Whilst I like them all being grouped together as the Marinette family episodes or whatever, I really, really dislike how Lady Noir starts breaking down. They kind of come back together and everything's fine, and then it all just falls apart again. It doesn't make sense structurally when you follow the overall plot of the season. Kuroneko, because in 19 to 22, Lady Noir relationship was amazing. It makes Adrian look so immature and moody for just giving up Cat Noir for really seemingly no reason, to be honest. Like, if Kuroneko happened as episode 19, the whole build-up that had gone from 14 to 18, with him finally the last straw when Ladybug starts shouting at him, he'd be like, okay, well yeah, I'm done now. That would have been amazing, but no, they basically delay his reaction. And it just looks very, very odd. And another thing I do have to question is, why was Ladybug pushing out Cat Noir? And the whole time I was watching this season, I was like, well, obviously, it's because of Cat Blanc. However, I'm not actually sure, because Cat Blanc being the reason, if that is the case, it was only brought up twice, in episode 14 and episode 26. And I've just assumed this whole season that's why she told Alia in Gang of Secrets her identity and not Cat Noir. And she had opportunity in Gang of Secrets right at the start of the episode, and I guess even at the end of the Akuma attack, if she wanted to tell Cat Noir, she could have. And now whether that was her identity or not, he still could have helped her. Like, we've had it drummed into us by this point. Yes, we know there can be no identity reveal until Hawkmoth has been defeated. We know, okay, that's fine, we understand it by now. However, Ladybug still could have asked him for help, for more support, for whatever, for Cat Noir to take on some more responsibility without having to tell him her identity. And it just makes it all the more weird, even if Cat Blanc was the reason, is because Cat Noir, especially in the first half of this season and in later on, like in Dearest Family, he was amazing. In Psychomedian, he was the one who saved the day, and he was amazing, for example, in Dearest Family. He was so good in so many other episodes. So to someone who is more of a passive viewer of the show, and they haven't seen the show as much as us, and I am assuming you watch the show a lot if you're also watching YouTube videos about the show, but if you're more of a passive viewer of the show, and I, again, saying this assuming Cat Blanc is the reason why she's acting like this, because I mean it makes sense, because in that timeline he knew her identity, so she's like, well, I can't tell him because it's gonna destroy the world. So Marinette was pushing him away, or she didn't even think she was pushing him away until Strike Back. She didn't even really realise until then what she had been doing. But she was like, okay, it's gonna protect me, it's gonna protect him, and it's gonna basically protect the rest of the world, or at the very least the rest of the country. So whilst I understand that, I don't feel like it may have been obvious to an audience member who is a bit more of a passive viewer of the show, and again, this is for children. Would a child necessarily remember that when it's only brought up twice this season. The first time not being until episode 14 in Marinette's Nightmare, right at the opening of the episode. It's not mentioned for 14 episodes. So while I'm pretty sure Cat Blanc is the foundation for why Marinette does push Cat Noir away, I'm not actually 100% sure. And if it is the reason, I love that as the reason. But if it is the reason, especially for a child audience, it should have been brought up more. Like I am assuming Marinette at the end of Octagon when she says I'm going to tell Alia everything. I am assuming Marinette has told Alia about Cat Blanc, but maybe I would have liked to have seen that conversation, or just some earlier episodes. Marinette's having nightmares, flashbacks, whatever, like they could have reused the animation footage from Cat Blanc. So I just feel like it should have been brought up more. I love it being the reason that she's kind of got this trauma from it. This person who she views as one of her best friends, someone she can trust to save her life. She doesn't feel like she can trust him because of something he doesn't even know about. I absolutely love that. But it should have been brought up a bit more if that's the reason, because I'm not actually sure. So assuming that is the reason Marinette acted like that all season, then I'm very happy. But if it's not, then it's a bit odd, but it needed to have been brought up more. And another thing I find a bit wishy-washy with this season, with the plots, was with Felix finding out who Shadow Daddy is. /was. Now I know it had to happen for the finale and I can't find much fault with the plot of the finale, so I agree, yes, Felix had to find out in this episode. But it's more of the manner of which he goes about finding it out. And it was just a bit too easy. Like I saw everyone online saying, like, oh, Felix is such a clever character. I'm like, well, is he though? Because all that happened is that his uncle bent over. That was it. And he knows, and like, how does Felix know? We see him in the car in episode 9 watching a video on the Ladybug about Miraculouses and how some can be used for good and how others use them for evil. Okay, fine, fair enough. But then he just sees his uncle leant over and he just knows those are Miraculouses. Felix has never knowingly seen a camouflage Miraculous before. Like, unless he's been watching other things on the Ladybug, and there have been pictures of them, which would seem a bit odd for Alia to take anyway. And obviously Felix has been around Adrian. He knows what his ring looks like, but Felix doesn't know that's a Miraculous, so he's never knowingly seen a Miraculous camouflaged. So how does he know? I'm like, there were some fundamental steps missing, and I really do feel like episode 9 should have been in 2 parts where Felix could have done some more investigating and we could actually see to the extent how intelligent he is in comparison to the rest of the characters. I just really feel like he makes some massive leaps in logic. However, speaking of Felix's intelligence, I really love the thing where he rips the Sentimonster's pants, the Gabriel Sentimonster, and then later on he's like, oh, your pants are fine. I mean, he could have just got changed once he noticed they were ripped or whatever, but okay. But you know what I mean. So Felix is very intelligent and I'm not really surprised that he found out anyway, although I was kind of hoping it was going to be Lila. However, at the same time I also feel like she already kind of is definitely suspicious of who Gabriel is. But it was just a bit, there were just some leaps in logic. So I know Felix had to find out for the finale, get that, and I'm glad he found out, but just the way he got there, the method in which he got there seemed just a bit too convenient for me. I know it's a kids show, but kids aren't stupid, so don't treat them like they are. And another thing that didn't really fly for me was Penultime, because there was no need to have all of the heroes in Penultime with the exception of Rena Rouge and Bunnix. Like, even without the 4 new heroes, Ladybug has a pretty extensive team. She didn't need 4 extra heroes. And it was just so rushed. I'm just, oh god. Like, I wouldn't have minded. I thought it would have been really cool actually. Obviously when I watched Penultime I didn't know this was going to happen because Strike Back hadn't been released yet. But I thought it would have been maybe really cool if the Ox Miraculous and the Goat Miraculous, their debut in the show was when an Akuma villain used them in season 5. I think that would have been really cool for their introduction. However, I do understand they needed the dog and the rooster for the finale. Yep, that's fine. I mean, I know Ivan was in the finale as Minotauro? I'm not even sure how to say his name. But they didn't really need him, to be honest. He didn't do anything. I don't think he actually said anything. He just kind of ran around with everyone. Like, what was his purpose in the finale? I'm not even sure. He was just kind of there. I guess we could probably say, oh, actually no, I was about to say the same for Ryuku, but she actually did do something in the finale. So, I'm not actually sure the purpose of Ivan's presence in that episode, to be honest. And I really feel like the dog Miraculous should have been introduced kind of halfway through the season and used once or twice more getting towards the finale to like lull us into a false sense of security. We're like, oh, it's fine, dog Miraculous, just a fun, cool Miraculous, touch things, they come back to you. Cool, that's cool, that's cool. And then bam, strike back, the dog Miraculous, most unassuming Miraculous. It's the Miraculous of most people's favourite animal, not mine because I hate dogs. But you know what I mean? Like, it would be like, oh, this is just a fun Miraculous, that's cute. Sabrina, your outfit's terrible, but this is a cute Miraculous, I like it. And then, oh boy, no, it actually can be used for really evil things. And then I would have made Panel Team Rooster Bold's debut, just because of the way the episode is structured. If you look at the debuts of the 4 new heroes in that, the episode spends a lot more time with, first of all, with the chats with Ladybug, with Sabrina and Mark, in comparison to Nathaniel and Ivan. So they both get a longer talk with her. Second of all, there's a lot more focus on Mark in that episode. I'm not just saying this because Mark is my favourite. Alright, I'm just looking at the facts here. But there's a lot of time spent with Mark in that episode. He has quite a long sequence with Nathaniel outside the stadium. Then he gets to show off with Mr. Didier. Then him and Ladybug have a long talk. He really comes through and helps save the day. And then again, he's there at the end to play football. It really seemed like they had made Panel Team for Mark and then realised, like, oh, we haven't debuted the other 3. Let's just quickly shove them in there. And it came off really rushed. So whilst I understand for the overarching plot of this season, for the finale to be achieved, we needed the rooster and dog to have debuted. I feel like they should have debuted the dog sooner to make us all feel safe around the dog Miraculous, and then brought it all back on the finale. Be like, no, this is not safe. This is terrible, but would have debuted Rooster in 24 since it's, I'm about to say it's a fairly innocent power. All the Miraculouses can be used for bad, but in comparison it wasn't going to be used for that until next season, so I think that would have been better. And another thing I have to question about this season is Chloe and how she changes with her view of Adrian in terms of the plot. So in Soul Crusher they're friends. I don't think they even really talk in that episode, but when Zoe arrives at school, Chloe's like, Adrian, he's mine, stay away from him, so she obviously likes him. End of 8, Queen Banana, Chloe's like, don't talk to me again. 9, Daddy aggressed. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna try and get Adrian kicked out of school so I can spend more time with him. Okay, and then in episode 25 she's helping Lila to keep Marinette away from Adrian. Maybe it's just because of Chloe and because she just changes her mind all the time, but I was like, what is wrong with you? I understand she's a bit all over the place, but that was just weird, to be honest. And the last thing I have to say about the plot is about Ephemeral. Yay. It was basically a general mess. It doesn't really fit with the season. And don't get me wrong, I love the way Count Noir being left out was built up, but because he was being left out so much, and as much as I love the reveal scenes and how cute they are, well, I don't know, maybe because maybe he would act like that way because he is Adrian, but I'm like, would Adrian really act like that when he finds out Marinette, of all people, who he thinks is lovely, has been treating him like this? I don't know, I just feel like he's too happy, and maybe he's just like, you know what, I've wanted this for ages, I don't care how you've treated me, I just want to be with you kind of thing. I know, however, by the time we get to Ephemeral, things have changed from how they were at the end of the last season between them. So I don't particularly feel like Ephemeral really fits with the overarching plot this season. And I'm not sure if that was intentional because it was episode 100 and they want it to be kind of viewed as more of like a special rather than as part of the season. So maybe, I guess that's why maybe they rewind time at the end of the episode so intentionally doesn't fit with the rest of the season really. I don't know. I mean, honestly, if we treat Ephemeral like just like a special 100 episode that doesn't really fit with the season and also move Kuroneko, the overall plot of the season becomes absolutely amazing. Even with those two where they are, it's still pretty good, with all the building of the lies and secrets really well, with Cat Noir being left out and him still being there for her in the ending. We have Felix coming in pretending to be Adrian, then he betrays Ladybug. The themes were solid throughout the entire season, and even with like even in some of the filler episodes, like with Zoe and Soul Crusher, she's hiding who she is. Master Fu in Furious Fu, I know he can't help hiding who he is because he doesn't remember anymore, but Marinette's keeping secrets from him. And then even Rose in Guilt Trip, she doesn't like people knowing that she's ill for whatever reason. The themes were still there all throughout the season, but if they just sorted out Ephemeral and Kuroneko and done something a bit different with Penalty, I think the season could have been even more amazing. However, just one last thing. Did I say the Ephemeral point was one last thing? This is the last thing. I do really like how the season 3 and season 4 endings mirror each other, with the miracle box being taken, but obviously Ladybug gets it back in season 3 and this time she's not so lucky. So I like it for poetic reasons. But also, no, like one of my mods, Ahmed, made this meme the other week about how we basically could have had the same ending, but Chloe would have taken the miracle box rather than Felix last time. And he's 100% right. I remember people asking Thomas Astruc about this and he was like, well, he doesn't know how to use them. And I'm like, okay, so? Why? Why does Gabriel needing to know how to use them mean he's not going to take them? Like, if I was Hawkmoth, I'd be like, well, I'm going to have them. Do I know how to use them? No, I don't know how to use them. But if I have them, then Ladybug can't use them. More of just like to one-up on her rather than to beat her with them. Just like, well, if I can't use them, then neither can you. If you can't use them, then I don't get to either. Basically. Like, why don't you just have them? Don't use them, just take them and stare at them as nice pieces of jewellery. Some of them are nice pieces of jewellery, some of them are ugly. But anyway, but I was just like, surely Ladybug not having them, even if Hawkmoth can't use them, is still like a win. I don't know, maybe that's more of a season 3 problem than a season 4 problem, so I don't even know if I should be mentioning it, but I was like, they're the same, and I don't really buy the excuse that I was like, oh well, Gabriel doesn't know how to use them, so have them anyway. If just because he doesn't know how to use them, Ladybug can't use them either if he's got them. So, and if he can't use them, he'll never use them, so Ladybug will never get them back. Alright. So now we're going to talk about the progression of the relationship development this season. And by relationships, I don't just mean romantic relationships. Relationships can mean other things. However, of course, we're going to start with a love square because it's a big part of the show. And then we're going to move on to Alia and Marinette's relationship, and then Marinette and Luca, but not romantically. And then I'm going to touch briefly on Chloe and Zoe, but I'm not going to talk too much about it because, like I said before, I want to do a full video on Zoe. So let's start with Adrianette, my favourite side of the love square. It opens with Adrianette in episode 4, that's the first time we get Adrianette with the umbrella scene. Personally, I would have liked some Adrianette sooner than episode 4. That is quite a while to wait for the first Adrianette of the season, but maybe I'm just saying that because, like I said, is my favourite ship in the show, apart from Gabe Nath, obviously. Gabe Nath is alive, I'll say this for now. We didn't get enough Gabe Nath this season, or just actually enough Natalie in general. That was just sad in itself. Like, how dare you, Gabriel? What is wrong with you? The Adrianette in season 5 was good, but they could have made it a lot less cringy pretty easily. The Adrianette in episode 11, Guilt Trip, was fabulous. The Adrianette in 13 was a bit rubbish, and it was the Adrianette in 15, 18, 19 and 24 was fine as well. But the Adrianette in 25, chef's kiss perfection, so good. So overall, the Adrianette did progress nicely with them getting closer in 4 and 5 and 11. Then they were steady but still together in 18, and then very close in 25 due to Risk. So even though we didn't get a lot, or maybe you think that's a lot and maybe I just don't think it is because I love Adrianette, I think it was a decent amount this season, as I'm pretty sure this season was meant to definitely be focused more on the Lady Noir relationship, which I think is going to be the same next season. I'm expecting more Lady Noir than Adrianette, which I think is meant to be the focus of the show anyway, so I guess I can't really complain since it's not even meant to be the focus, it's meant to be Lady Noir. But I think it was really good and had a really nice, cute development for them for the amount we got. It was like, I really like Adrianette because it's just such a, like, I really like Adrianette because it's such a cute ship. Like, Lady Noir and Marishat are quite flirty ships, whereas Ladrian, they just kind of stare at each other. Whereas Adrianette's, it's very cute, very sweet, and I feel like pretty much all of the Adrianette scenes this season really amplified how close they feel to each other, as well as Adrian's developing feelings for Marinette, because he definitely likes her. He doesn't know he likes her, I agree, he has no idea he likes her, but he likes her. He does. They're so cute together. No. I think it developed really well, and actually when I was going through and writing this last night, I felt for the development we got for them, I felt there'd been more Adrianette scenes, but when I actually like wrote them all down, I was like, oh, actually there wasn't actually that many Adrianette scenes. So I think that shows that me and Adrianette stan didn't even notice, but it was still pulled off really, really well. Now for the development of Lady Mar. Oh boy, oh boy! It was so good though. And when I say development, it doesn't have to develop to a good place, it can develop to a terrible place as long as it's moving along and changing and developing. It doesn't have to be good development, it can be bad development in terms of things get bad, but it's done well. So this was bad development in that it wasn't good for their relationship, but I thought it was done really, really well. In Truth and Lies, they're very trusting of each other, as we see at the end of Lies. They're like, yeah, we don't know the other person's identity, we know we're keeping secrets from each other, but we can trust each other with our lives. But then in some of the episodes in the first half of the season, for example Gang of Secrets, Mr. Pigeon 72 and Optigami, she's slowly pulling away from him. However, the way they've done it is that Marinette didn't even realise that she was doing it. Like in Haxan at the end, when Alia is like, you need to go and talk to Cat Noir, Marinette's like, why? What have I done? She has no clue. She didn't even think that this would even hurt him in any way. She doesn't even see that she's leaving Cat Noir behind in favour of a whole person team. And as for Cat Noir, he has no idea this is happening either until Sentibubble, when Rena Rouge is like, this is a two-person plan and you are not part of that plan, and he gets pretty angry. And the way it's built up in 15, with Ladybug shouting at him and putting him in the bin, which was not good, didn't like that. Then in 16, obviously Ladybug gives her Miraculous to someone else, and I've heard a lot of people say Adrian was unnecessarily violent towards Alia, and I'm like, was he though? Like, Ladybug didn't tell him anything. For all he knew, Hawkmoth could have captured her, and this was someone about to come and take his Miraculous, and something terrible was happening to his Ladybug. Like, I feel like his reaction's completely justified. I'd be so worried. And then quite upset to find out you couldn't even be bothered to send me a cheeky text to let me know what was going on. Like, I feel like his reaction in Haxan was completely justified for the state of their relationship at that point. Then in 17 and 18 we get a bit of a better look at how Adrian is feeling with his future as being Cat Noir in Wishmaker. He does kind of consider giving it up. However, then at that point, Lady Noir picks up for 4 episodes and it's wonderful, it's perfect, it's the greatest teamwork you've ever seen. And then randomly, in episode 23, seemingly out of nowhere, he's like, you know what, I am really annoyed with you. Like, they build it up, like things are terrible by the end of Wishmaker between them. Like, things aren't going well. Adrian does not feel great about this. He's pretty upset about how things are. Then in 19 to 22, things are fine, things are Gucci. Then in episode 23 he's like, actually, you know what, I take that back, I'm not okay. It's just so odd. It would be so much better for the progression of not only the plots, like I said before when I was doing the plot parts, but also for the progression of relationships. It would have been so much better for the season to have Kuro and Echo right after episode 18. That way we can see the Lady Noir relationship breaking down, it completely breaking apart in episode 23, and then having some episodes that show the Lady Noir relationship trying to be built back up strong again in Simple Man and Chilin and Dearest Family. Stuff like that before we get the stuff that happens in the finale. Like, because the Lady Noir in like the last 6 episodes of the season, with the exception of Kuro and Echo, the Lady Noir in those episodes, apart from Strike Back as well, is really good. It's normal Lady Noir. They're really great together. So Kuro and Echo just doesn't make any sense for either plot progression or the relationship development between Ladybug and Cat Noir. However, I also really like in the episode 25 opener, things still aren't okay but they're better than they were, which I really like, and she's like, yeah, you are part of this team and you're still unique in that you have your Miraculous, but you're also my favourite, and she kisses him on the cheek. Sorry. And kind of the only reason they end up having that argument in Strike Back, which I think needed to happen though, I really liked that argument. Not because I hate them, want them to fall out, because he needed to have it, that's why I like the argument. And the only reason they had it was due to the effects of Risk, which I really liked it. Honestly, Risk as an Akuma I think was so good. I think honestly my main reason why the Lady Noir wasn't perfect this season for me is because of Kuroneko. Most of my problems this season lie with Kuroneko and Ephemeral and kind of Penalty, to be honest. Like, they only really have Penalty. Like, in the current order the season stands, so everything's terrible up till Wishmaker, things are fine, terrible again in Kuroneko, but then things are okay in Risk until the argument in Strike Back. They only really have one episode to get, you know, a really good relationship back between them that we see obviously in real time in Miraculous. There's probably other Akuma fights and other patrols that we don't see them doing, which I expect as well. However, Penalty is a team episode. Ladybug and Cat Noir don't spend a great deal of time in the episode talking to each other because there are so many other heroes. So there's not much time to get to where they are at the start of Risk. So yeah, to me, Chilin and Dearest Family would have made more sense for the finale, as the Lady Noir is really good in those episodes, which again makes Kuroneko seem so out of place. But again, just in general, without going too specific into each episode, I think the progression of the Lady Noir relationship overall, ignoring Kuroneko, was done really well, with Ladybug not even realising she's pushing him away and what she's done until the end of Strike Back when she's lost everyone else, and Cat Noir not realising until Senti Bubbler what's going on and progressively getting sadder and sadder and finally confronting her, which definitely should have been sooner. 23 is too late for him to wait, but then him still being there for her. What a mad lad. And this is kind of naturally leading us on to Ladrian. And we only technically got one Ladrian moment now since Ephemeral didn't happen anymore, which of course is the bathroom scene, Ladybug's panic attack just before she goes into the bathroom. And he's still there for her. He's like, if you're gonna choose a moment to trust me, it has to be now. Whatever he says exactly. It just shows how much he is there for her. Even after he's been treated all this way, he's still like, I am there for her, and I'm really glad in the end she finally did apologise. There's going to have to be a lot of work done between them next season. Honestly, I think the Lady Noir this season would have been pretty much perfect the way it developed if it hadn't been for where Kuroneko falls. There just isn't enough time to get back to a normal Lady Noir relationship for Risk after what happens in 23. It should have come sooner. Then they could have had Sheila and Dearest Family and Simple Man and Ephemeral to sort things out. Then they have one final big team fun episode before the traumatic finale where Lady Noir is kind of okay in Risk but then falls apart due to Risk in Strike Back. That would have been so much better. Just sort out Kuroneko. I swear to God, the source of all of my problems is Kuroneko. Can I sue a television episode? Please and thank you. So now we're going to talk about the final side of the Love Square, which is the Mary Shot. And most of the Mary Shot moments, we got a couple like in Senti Bubbler and Soul Crusher, but the bulk of it was obviously in 15, and I think a lot of people really like 15. I know the episode was high in my ranking video, and when I look in the comments under that video, Glaciator 2 is ranked pretty high in a lot of people's estimations of the season. And the reason why we all like Mary Shot, I think, it's the reason I like it, and when I've spoken to other people this is the reason they like it as well, is because it lets the other person see who the other person truly is. Around Marinette, Cat Noir isn't half as flirty or cheeky, it shows a slightly more serious, slightly more Adrian-like side to him, and as for Cat Noir, he gets to see Marinette as who she normally is, because around Adrian, Marinette is too anxious to have a normal conversation with him. So that's why I really like Mary Shot. However, in the episode, Marinette does seem really concerned about how Cat Noir is feeling, which is great, and it's really reflected in that episode. As Ladybug, like at the start of the episode, she doesn't care, she throws him in a bin, which was objectively the worst thing she's probably done in the show, one of the worst things she's done in the show probably. But I don't feel like, after the walk in the rain and Andre gets akumatized again, she's quite understanding towards him in the Akuma fights and stuff. However, I don't feel like that understanding is carried through in the rest of the season. So while alone I love Mary Shot, I love episode 15, in terms of how that relationship development, because they get quite a bit closer than previous Mary Shot moments, it doesn't really affect the whole season. As in, it has zero effect on how Ladybug views Cat Noir moving forward. The way he opens up to her in that episode, Ladybug just doesn't seem to care moving forward. She cares in Glaciates too, but after that, It's not good, because if she really did understand how Cat Noir was feeling after he opened up to her in episode 15, the way she acted in a lot of other episodes, for example Wishmaker and Haxan, it would be quite different, but it's not there. So whilst Alone Glaciator 2 is a really good Marishat episode, it doesn't really seem to contribute much to the overall developments of any of the Love Square relationships. So whilst I do still like Glaciator 2 in terms of the relationship development, and whilst individually there was Marishat development, it had no effect on any other side of the Love Square, which was just weird. In terms of its overall contribution to the relationship progression this season, it was bad, and I don't know if that's because Thomas Astrup doesn't like Marishat. I'm pretty sure I've seen on Twitter he's like, yeah, I don't like it. It's his least favourite side of the Love Square. Maybe that's the reason why it didn't affect anything, and maybe also the reason why I would argue Marishat has never quite reached its full potential, you know what I mean? Like, Adrian always seems to be closer to Marinette after a Marishat moment, but Marinette never seems to care all that much about Cat Noir going forward. It only ever really affects Adrian, which I'm happy it does, but Marinette just doesn't seem to care. So, and the same happened here, so I was a bit like, So I like Glaciator 2, but with the way it didn't contribute to the rest of the relationships in the season, I didn't really like it at all. In both ways. So now we're going to talk about Marinette and Alia, and oh my god, yes. It was so good. So obviously it kind of opens with them in Gang of Secrets, progressively being more helpful. So in episode 4 as well, Mr. Pigeon 72, Alia basically cracks things with the charms as well. 10, 11 and 12, Alia helps in little ways. I really thought she was funny in 12, pretending she was hurt so Marinette could get away and transform. 13 and 14, amazing. 16 and 17, also really good, but then in episode 26 it all comes crashing down, all because Alia told Nino her secret because she couldn't keep them. And like, don't get me wrong, it was really cute how Nino saved her, but obviously that was the reason Alia had to give up the Miraculous, because Hawkmoth found out she was still active, and like, I know it would have been dangerous for Alia to keep the Miraculous, I get that, but it was still sad. I kind of wanted to keep it, even though it's too dangerous. Okay, I know that, but I was like, she should have kept it. So overall, the way their relationship depicted this season was amazing. I mean, I already loved Alia before this season. I wish she was my sister, but the way she just did anything for Marinette, even after Gang of Secrets and Marinette had been lying to her and acting like a weirdo for God knows how long, probably nearly a year at this point. Her family was in danger in episode 14, her relationship with Nino was in danger in episode 17. She put it all on the line for Ladybug. I love getting to see them grow close progressively over the season. Like, of course they were pretty close before this season, but now, amazing. I absolutely love their relationship and the way it was written. It was written so well. They didn't even include Alia in every single episode, and even if she wasn't an episode, she wasn't always helping Ladybug. I thought it was paced so well. I definitely thought whilst I was watching the season that they were replacing Cat Noir with Alia, but now I've watched it all back, I'm like, oh no, actually they weren't doing that. It just seemed like that at the time. Like, literally every single episode Alia seemed to have an amazing role in it, and Adrian was like, I'm still here if you remember. But when you watch it all in chronological order, you can see how well it was paced. Alia didn't do too much too soon. She was just kind of helping out in the first half of the season, but she really came through in 13 and 14, which is why she gets to use a Ladybug Miraculous in episode 16. But obviously episode 26, she loses it because of her actions in episode 17. And the way their relationship progressed, even though they were telling the truth to each other for the most part, it was still in keeping with the lies and secrets themes of the season. It was so amazingly done. So now we're going to talk about Marinette and Luca. And like I said, this is not Lucanette, I don't mean this romantically. Marinette and Luca as friends, as buddies, as they call each other. However, we are going to start obviously with episode 1, which is where their relationship breaks down, because they break up, and we don't actually see Luca again, I'm pretty sure, until episode 12, Crocodile, when it's his birthday. Then of course episode 18, he finds out who Ladybug and Cat Noir are, and he is also in episode 22, Ephemeral, but I'm not going to talk about it too much since it didn't actually happen anymore. So he's only technically in 3, but also technically in 4. So he doesn't actually do much this season, like I said, only 3, technically 4 episodes. However, the way their relationship, Marinette and Luca's relationship, was shown in those 3/4 episodes was extremely well paced. So episode 1, Marinette is like, I am done, I can't do any of this. She's sad as she transforms to save Luca. She's crying at home after she's broken up with him, which I always found a bit weird because I was like, you quite clearly don't have feelings for this boy, but okay, whatever. In episode 12, she avoids him like the plague, which I guess humans don't really do, because it turns out when there is a plague, most humans actively try and go out to catch it. Great stuff. However, they make up at the end of 12. Then in episode 18, they're kind of careful around each other, but they are still pretty close friends. And then Luca obviously finds out who their identities are and has like a spiritual death on the spot. And from that point on in the season, not counting Ephemeral, he doesn't really do anything else. He makes a very brief appearance in Strike Back. He's also in Pedal Team, but he doesn't really do anything. It's a really slow relationship over only 3 episodes. But because Luca has been set up to be this super wise and trustworthy and reliable character, as we do see in Ephemeral, it's done really nicely. I think personally I would have liked to have seen more of them this season, and I have a feeling we'll be seeing a lot of him next season. But for only 3 episodes of Luca that were quite far apart, we have 1, 12 and 18. Those numbers aren't close to each other. I mean, they're not terribly far apart, but they're not like 1, 4 and 9, you know what I mean? They're a bit further apart than that. But even though it was only 3 episodes, it was well paced with some nice progression, in keeping with, I guess, how awkward it must be to become friends with your ex. I wouldn't know, because as soon as I've finished a relationship I never talk to them again because I can't physically do it. So Marinette and Luca, well done, because I couldn't do it. So it really fits with both Marinette and Luca's kind of more shy, quiet personalities, and also the state of their relationship as once being girlfriend and boyfriend. It was really, really well done. And the final relationship we're going to talk about, because I cannot talk about the relationships of every single character in this show, we will be here for hours. I'm going to talk about Chloe and Zoe. And it was a bit maybe this is due to my own expectations, but when you find out that Chloe Bourgeois, of all people, is getting a sister in the show, you're going to expect some things to happen, and I did expect some things to happen. And I expected a bit more than what we got. Chloe and Zoe only really had interaction in episode 7, 8, 9, and I guess you could also count Optigami as well. They don't even talk to each other, they just kind of touch each other. I guess you could count that as interaction. It started off well in Soul Crusher, and Queen Banana was a good episode for them as well, but it just kind of seemed like they forgot that Zoe existed for most of the season. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I don't know, it literally feels like they forgot about it, and they were like, episode 26 Strike Back, oh yeah, we should put Chloe and Zoe together for this little part, for that little shot at the end. So I was like, For Chloe getting a sister, I expected a lot more. I feel like they could have done more with it, in my opinion. Like, where was Zoe at school? Like, we never saw her again. Like, it was just weird. It was just weird. I don't think it was done very well. I'm expecting more next season. But if it's not done well, I will be annoyed because I really like Zoe. So now, final section of the video, we are going to talk about character development. And I can't physically talk about character development for all the characters this season because my voice is already dying. I've got to film another video after this. I'm not doing it, so we're only going to focus on 4 characters. We're going to do Marinette, we're going to do Adrian, we're going to do Lila, and we're going to do Alia. Those are the only 4 we're going to do, but please, I'd love to know your thoughts on development for the other characters. I guess it's hard for Miraculous because it's a kids show, not all the characters get a lot of screen time, you know what I mean? Like, there's no point discussing character development of Mylène, for example, because she's not on the screen enough to get character development. But we're gonna talk about the development, or lack of development, of these 4 characters, and let's start with everyone's favourite, Marinette. So I have the most to say about her, hence why we're starting with her. And in my opinion, this season was definitely the best for her character development, ignoring Simple Man, because they just throw all of her character development out of the window by having her stalk Adrian. She was getting to a much better place. She'd only done it once in the season in Mr. Pigeon 72 really, and it was more of to help Kagami than for her own benefit, so I didn't mind it so much. Obviously not great, but better than what it had been in previous seasons, so I didn't hate it too much in that episode. So if we just ignore Simple Man, she was amazing this season with the way she developed. She became an amazing leader. So in episode 1 she was like, nope, I can't do this, I can't date anyone. how am I supposed to live like this? And then in episode 3 she's like, well, I can't even have any other friends either, I may as well emancipate myself from my parents, sort of thing. But then Alia helped her, Marinette got back on track. She had a bit of a panic in episode 14, but to be honest, I think that was understandable. This is the first time Marinette had permanently given out Miraculous. I'd be paranoid too, even if this person was my best friend. I'd be worried too, but we got to see her as an amazing leader shown in episode 24, 25 and 26, and then it was all taken away from her and she was absolutely devastated. I mean, that wasn't the only reason she was devastated, there was a bit more to it. Like, you've been betrayed by the person but obviously it wasn't actually Adrien, but the person she's in love with. Obviously it's Felix, but she was like, Adrien of all people, this person who looks like Adrien, the best person ever, has betrayed me. Like, that's devastating in itself, but now she doesn't have this team. Suhan's probably going to shout at her, he's not going to be very happy. The whole city was counting on her to save them and she's let them all down. The way she was built up this season, or for it to just be taken away from her in the last episode, was amazing, and the overall progression and pacing of Marinette's change in character from how she was like in season 3, where again right at the end of season 3, at the end of episode 25 in that season, she was crying with Luca. She's like, actually I don't even know who I am anymore, I can't be myself, this is getting too much. The way it all progressed even from them was so good. And I also loved how they showed that Marinette wasn't even aware she was pushing Cat Noir away. Like in episode 16 she had zero clue. And none of this as well, I like how none of this was done out of malice. She didn't do this because she hates Cat Noir. Like, she believes she's protecting her, she's protecting him, and she's basically protecting the whole world. However, one thing I really disliked about her character this season was that she showed zero remorse for what she'd done in Kuro and Echo. Now I know she has that line when she's talking to the child right at the end. Ladybug says like, oh, I lost my kitty too. That is the only remorse she shows in that episode, and whilst I understand now, like when I watched Kuro and Echo I didn't like it, and whilst now we've got Strike Back, I understand that she was saving, well, they were saving her apology for when Cat Noir comes right at the end and he's still there for her and she finally apologises to him. I get it, but in that episode she didn't seem to care in the slightest that her Cat Noir was gone. She was like, oh, okay, well I gotta find a new one. She didn't seem to care in the slightest until that line, and honestly I didn't believe it. I've watched that line in several languages now and I'm like, I don't believe a single one of you, all the Marinettes of the world, everyone who voices her in whatever language, I don't believe a single one of you. And whilst I do love the way she apologises in Strike Back, it's a very poignant moment, that end scene, I just feel it's very odd that she genuinely just doesn't see until that episode what she's done is so wrong until then. I just feel like this season should have been the season where she finally tells him about Cat Blanc. I'm hoping it's going to happen next season, but I was just like, I believe she was sorry in Strike Back. I do genuinely believe she was sorry. But, and I do understand why she was also leaving Cat Noir out. And I understand it was for all this reason, the team being taken away from her is the only person going to be back for her. That's fine, that's fine. But in that way, I didn't like how Marinette's character progressed, but that's more of a personal thing because I think the way it was all written and paced and stuff was absolutely amazing. Like, otherwise, I do think she had pretty good character development this season, which is now technically all gone because Hawkmoth now has all the Miraculouses. But I like it. We're kind of almost back to a season 1 Marinette, but a much more mature and also paranoid / traumatized Marinette who's going to have to build herself back up with the help of Alia and Cat Noir. However, another thing I do dislike, this is the last point about Marinettes, the hypocrisy in this season. She lets Alia use the Fox Miraculous this season, even though Hawkmoth knows her identity, when pretty much the whole reason, as we saw in Miraculous in season 3, was the reason Chloe wasn't allowed to use a Bee Miraculous again. And I understand those two situations are very different. Chloe in, I think it was Queen Wasp, proclaimed to everyone, like, yeah, I'm Queen Bee, shouldn't try to hide her identity. She was like, yeah, I'm her, what are you gonna do about it? She didn't care. I understand, like, it wasn't Alia's fault, but the reason Ladybug has always said is because Hawkmoth knows who Chloe is. Not because of what Chloe did, because Hawkmoth knows who she is. So as much as I love Alia, and I do genuinely love Alia, it was definitely hypocritical, and in no way do I blame Chloe for getting akumatized in the season 3 finale. If I had been Chloe, I also would have been fuming. And now let's talk about Adrien. Our Adrikins. We love Adrikins. And again, I also think, like Marinette, this season was the best for his developments. Now, he is the second lead. Marinette will always be the main character, so I always expect him to get less development than her because he's not the main character. He's the second main, but he's not the main, so I always expect less from him, which sounds really mean. It's like, Adrian, I expect the least from you. Anyway, we didn't get that much development for him until episode 14, so in the second half of the season. And the way his development was done from episode 14 to 18, amazing. It's built up slowly and steadily and consistently from Senti Bubbler all the way up to Wishmaker, and then he just forgets about it and then has a delayed reaction in 23 Kuroneko. It comes out of nowhere. Like, I agree, it needed to happen. Adrian needed to have that emotional peak. However, I don't actually feel like that was his emotional peak. I felt like Kuroneko, maybe it's because it came too late, maybe that's why, but I do feel that it just wasn't quite enough, and maybe he will have his emotional peak in season 5 and I'll change my mind on this, but I do feel like he needed to have one this season. The season does feel slightly incomplete without it, because in Kuroneko, for the most part, after like the first 5 minutes, he was fine. He was like, yeah, I'm okay, I guess I'll just pretend to be someone else and then transform back the other way. Yeah, it's fine, it's fine. He seemed okay, you know? Like, yeah, I feel like he should have had a better emotional peak. It had a lot less impact for me. I was really excited to see him get upset. Sorry. I was excited to see it. It didn't really happen, so I was like, Like, he didn't even cry. I'm sorry, this sounds really mean, but I was like, come on, like, Marinette cried several times. You didn't cry at all. So, I don't know. However, I see a lot of people saying he should have been upset with Ladybug sooner. He should have reached that emotional peak sooner. And I really do have to disagree. Marinette and Adrian are very different. Marinette, as she says at the start of the theme song to the show, she's a normal girl with a normal life. She has a whole pretty nice life from what we know about when the show opens in Origins. Her life is great. She doesn't need anything else. Like, yeah, being Ladybug is cool. Does she have time for it? No. Then she's the Guardian. Does she have time for that? No! She has no time for this. So whilst I don't think Marinette hates being Ladybug, she's like, I already have so much to do. I don't have time for any of this. So she reaches her emotional peak much sooner. Plus Marinette is a lot more sensitive and more open to feeling things. She's very, as we saw in Psychomedian, very overly dramatic, overacts things, overfeels things. She feels things quite a lot. I'm the same, I identify with you, Marinette. I feel things probably a bit too much, as my mum tells me. However, in comparison to Adrian, he's grown up not being allowed to express himself because of his father and also presumably his mum as well. We're still not even sure what really happened there. So he's not allowed to express himself. So it's no wonder he basically waited to have his emotional peak, because he's used to holding all of his emotions inside. And also on top of that, as we saw in Lies and in Risk as well, Adrian hates his life. The only good part about his life seemed to be getting to go to school and being Cat Noir. So it makes sense that he would hold on and not get as emotional about being left out so soon, because they're drastically different people. Marinette and Adrian aren't the same. They've had very different upbringings and have very different personalities. Adrian, even when he does get emotional, it takes him a while to act on things. Like in season 3, Lila wasn't treating Marinette very nice and chameleon, but she was okay, so Adrian was like, let's just chill, let's just forget about it. But by the time it gets to the episode Ladybug and Lila gets Marinette tricked out of school, Adrian's like, right, okay, who do I have to kill? Because at that point, he's had enough. It takes Adrian a lot longer to get to the same emotional peak as Marinette, because of their differences in personalities. It wouldn't make sense for Adrian to have this emotional outburst sooner. So I like that they waited much longer for Adrian. But it should have been sooner, as in episode 19 rather than episode 23. I'm going to talk about the wrong placement of Kuroneko until the day I die. So now let's talk about Lila and her lack of development this season. Now you think it's probably a bit weird that I'm picking her over the rest of the characters to talk about, but I was just like, this doesn't sit right with me, we need to talk about it. For a season with the overall themes being lying and secrets and stuff like that, and to have barely any Lila content. If ever there was going to be a season for Miss Lila Rossi, then this was the season for her, and she wasn't even in it. Now, I know if Lila had a small starring role in other episodes this season, it would have really changed the plots. And honestly, I quite like her only really having a big role in, not a biggish role in Panel Team, and then in Risk, and I guess kind of in a way in Strike Back, but also really not really. But anyway, so I like that she only really acted then. However, she had zero presence. In order for her to be so important in Risk, I really definitely think she needed to have some presence this season. Now, like I said, I'm not saying she had to be akumatized this season or be the cause of someone else's akumatization. But for Lila to have a couple of lines here and there would have been amazing. She doesn't speak until episode 24 Panel Team, but for example, in 20 in Chile, Lila is attending Sabine's art class thing. She could have said something then about Ladybug and Cat Noir. She's also in the class episodes this season, for example Wishmaker, for example Guilt Trip. Why didn't she say something in those episodes? For example, in episode 9, why wasn't she also invited to Gabriel's party to sit with the rest of the kids? She didn't need to have that major of a role until Risk in the other episodes, but she needed to have done or said something to like remind the audience like, hey, she's still here and she's still horrible, without having to necessarily have the plot of that episode focused on here. It was just so weird. Like, she just have a line here and there. She doesn't speak until Panel Team. Like, you know this season is weird with Lila when Mark, of all people, has more lines than her. Don't get me wrong, I love Mark, but he had more lines than her the whole season and more scenes than her the whole season. What is that about? Like, I enjoyed it, it was great, because I love Mark, but Lila is a more major character than Mark, unfortunately. So why was he getting more lines than her? Doesn't make any sense. What? So, the final character we'll be talking about the development of is Alia, and she was quite definitely the season MVP. What a queen, oh my god, Alia, she was amazing. She went from being an awesome friend in season 3 to an awesome all-round person, someone give her a crown. She was amazing in episode 4, awesome in 12, a queen in episode 13 and 14, an absolute empress in episode 16, oh my god. And then we had all that emotional damage in episode 26 when they were both crying in the alleyway and Alia had to rescind her Miraculous because it was too dangerous. I still kind of wish she kept it, but I understand it was too dangerous. She was just fabulous though. The way it was paced, it was so good. I think I said a lot of this in the Marinette and Alia relationship section, so I won't spend too long on it. We're nearly done, by the way. It was so good, and I really loved as well how it was juxtaposed with Cat Noir being left out. Like, there are a lot of jokes this season about how it's now Marinette, about how it's now Miraculous tales of Ladybug and Rena Rouge rather than Cat Noir. But I loved how her being brought to more prominence and him being slowly left out. Goodbye. I love how they were juxtaposed with each other, and it really highlighted, because Cat Noir was being left out, all for the purpose of what was going to happen ultimately in Strike Back, that it highlighted Alia's development more. She was absolutely amazing this season, and the way it all progressed was awesome. So in conclusion, I would rate this season as being the bee's knees and is a solid 8 out of 10. The biggest problems I have with this season are where Kuroneko is, how bad Ephemeral is, the rushing in Panel Team, and the lack of Lila presence. Like I said in her section, she didn't need to be a main character in any of the episodes. She just needed to have a line or two here and there to remind the audience that, hey, she's still here and she might do something at any moment. But yeah, it was just... those were the things I hated most about the season. But other than that, I think overall it was a good season. I'm sorry if when you watch my commentary videos you got the impression I hated the season. I know I was harsh on some of the episodes. In those commentary videos I was very harsh on Ephemeral in the Ephemeral video. Although I still stand by everything I said. I still don't like it. Not a good episode. Even if it is like a fun 100 episode special that we remove from the rest of the season. Objectively it's still not a good episode, but anyway. However, like, a lot of the times you gotta remember when I film those commentary videos, they are like my first impression of the episode. I'll only have seen the episode like 3 times before we get there, so like there are some things that I can't say yet because I haven't seen the episodes around it, depending what order we get in, or I just won't have noticed some things because I inevitably can't notice absolutely everything about the show. Like, I try my hardest, but it just can't always happen. So, I mean, there were definitely some episodes when I watched them the first time I wasn't the biggest fan of, and some that I've liked a bit more since rewatching them. My biggest problems are with Ephemeral and Kuroneko. Even if they put Kuroneko earlier, it's still not that great an episode, but it would be better. In my opinion. So yes, of course, that was obviously all in my opinion. So I'd love to know what you all thought about the season as a whole, not just individual episodes, as a whole. Take it in as a whole piece of art, all 26 episodes, or all 25 if, like me, you just want to ignore Ephemeral. I didn't like it. I expected so much from the 100th episode of the show. However, when I've watched other 100th episodes of other shows, they're always a bit rubbish sometimes, so maybe I should just stop expecting everything. If I expect every single episode of Miraculous to be bad, then I'll always be happy, because inevitably the majority of the episodes aren't bad, the majority of the episodes are good. But anyway, I'd love to know what you thought of the season as a whole work of art. I loved it. I can't wait to watch it again tomorrow, because apparently I have no life, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!